I know when individuals or families around the country hear us talk about derivatives or swaps, it's easy to lose sight about who exactly is impacted by misguided regulations. So I do want to note a survey of Main Street businesses that was released yesterday by the Center for Capital Markets Competitiveness, a U.S. Chamber-sponsored entity. One half, it says, of all businesses that responded to that survey stated that they are, quote, very closely involved with the use of derivatives. Many of them use these instruments to manage risk and keep costs low for their customers. So we've got to keep in mind that it's manufacturers, technology companies, their customers, and others that are impacted when a regulation in this area misses the mark. The survey also showed that for an overwhelming number of these businesses, it's important that the financial institution they use, quote, has a wide spectrum of services to meet their needs. In other words, if regulation leads to fewer choices and less competition in the market, there is a real price to be paid. With that said, I do want to focus my questions on Chairman Garrett's bill because I believe robust economic analysis is a critical factor that, frankly, I think has been missing recently. Congressman Benson, thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. But the SEC was given an enormous amount of new authority as a result of Dodd-Frank and was tasked with writing around 100 different rules. Are you concerned that a proper cost-benefit analysis has been a missing factor in some or all of these rules?
Well, I think that the SEC obviously saw in the case of the proxy access case that cost-benefit analysis was a necessary legal principle. And I think Congress has recognized and the administration have recognized, certainly in executive branch departments, that there's a need for cost-benefit analysis, that regulation isn't free. There's a need for regulation, but you should weigh various factors in crafting that regulation. And so we think it's appropriate to follow on what the Obama administration, the Clinton administration proposed by executive order. And again, to be fair, I think we are seeing the SEC now in beginning to build a cost-benefit analysis structure, but we think this is an appropriate approach to take.
Then you do agree that that this needs more attention, especially in the wake of Dodd-Frank?
Absolutely.
In your opinion, what has the SEC's track record? You talked a little bit about their movement forward in this, but what has been their track record been in considering the cumulative costs of regulation and determining whether a regulation is inconsistent or duplicative of other regulations?
Well, Congresswoman, I almost think that's a broader question that I don't think that anyone has looked at the cumulative cost associated with all of the Dodd-Frank reforms. It doesn't mean not necessarily to do them, but I do think it's important to understand what the cost is in terms of capital allocation and capital formation and then the other point you make is consistency.
Yes.
That you can't do these in a silo and just say, oh, we're just going to look at Title VII, we're going to ignore what's in Title I or Title II or the other costs attendant to that they all come together.
Could you explain why it is in fact sound policy to exempt enforcement actions and emergency orders from the economic analyses?
Well, I think that that would be appropriate in the sense that it reflects the enforcement and investor protection component of the commission. That you want to not make sure that they have the ability to move swiftly in enforcing the law.
I think the President actually put forth some very good principles for regulators in his executive order 2 years ago. And considering that the SEC has been one of the more active regulators recently, wouldn't you agree that it makes a lot of sense to codify those principles for the SEC as well?
Well, I think for the SEC, for the CFTC, I think that the President can only do so much by way of executive order, but I think it sets the pathway that this is appropriate for independent agencies as it is for executive branch agencies.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Congressman Benson, and I yield my time back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Gentlelady yields.